Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We kick out the zone with football. Jamaica once again has a premier knockout competition with the Lynk Cup taking centre stage. The Cup is now at the quarterfinal stage after commencing with 24 teams from across the island. There was a media launch on Wednesday to highlight the competition. Let's see those quarterfinal fixtures now. So, Tiverton Gardens against Dunby Holden and Port United against Malines United in the doubleheader at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex, Arnett Gardens. And then on Thursday, Cavalier against Mount Pleasant and Harbourview meeting up with Chapelton FC. Matches start 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Jamaica time. Again, it's going to be contested at the Anthony Spalding Sports Complex. Now, the Jamaica Football Federation Vice President Raymond Anderson voiced his approval of the competition so far.
From the JFF, we really appreciate this competition because, as just alluded to MC, it really is a competition that we should have long ago. You know, we have that break, and as a person for competition, this competition really help us to really improve on the vibes, the feel good in football. Because this year, comparing with what you're going to get for the following year and the other year, I'm hopeful that we'll have this competition for a very long while. And what we from the JFF will use this competition also to do is to really motivate and mobilize the parishes, because, you know, they said small ox like big cheese. So at all time, the parish associations want those clubs that participate at the parish level with the Premier League, they want to be a winner.
Well, Kamori Burke is the brand and sponsorship manager of Lynk, the marquee sponsors of the event, and he listed some exciting monetary prizes for not only the clubs, but the players as well.
I cannot stress this enough. I haven't seen a competition that rewards the players for goals scored. That's what we want. We want fast-paced, high-scoring matches, because as a purist or as a football fan, that's what we love. Finally, to all the clubs that have made it this far, to the final 8, there's a total prize pool of $5.5 million that will be shared amongst all 8 teams, with the top team receiving $1.65 million, the second team winning $1.45 million, the third place team taking home just over $1 million, and the fourth place leaving with $800,000. I believe that that is all the impetus, all the motivation that is needed to ensure that we have a tremendous competition.
Well, the CEO of Professional Football Jamaica Limited, Owen Hill, joins us now to discuss the competition. Owen, welcome once again to the SportsMax Zone. We heard a little bit earlier from the Vice President of the JFF, Raymond Anderson, who said that it's almost like the seasoning in the season. And you agree with that?
It's interesting. It's a good analogy. It's definitely a nice spice that you add to the football ecosystem, and I think it's very, very important to have a competition like this, especially in a time like this where we're now reviving football.
What have you seen in terms of the plans of this competition that excites you?
Well, first up, I'll tell you that the monetary prize is on show. I think that is important. As Kemoy would have mentioned earlier, the top team will walk away with $1.65 million, and that's a tidy sum for about 6 weeks worth of work. And then progressively, as every team would have contributed, they would have gained some financial return. So the second place team 1.45, the third place team 1.15, and then the fourth place team. Interestingly, every goal scored. So if you're a goal scorer, you get $5,000 every single time you score a goal, and that will be applied to your Link wallet. You get $25,000 if you're a golden ticket winner. And then every time you purchase a ticket to the venue, if you use the Pay with Link option, you get back some returns. You get $100 discounted from your ticket prices. So outside of the monetary gains that you will see in this competition, the excitement and the fanfare within the stadium, that will also be an important element to add to what is considered the football ecosystem.
Yeah, you're right about the money enticing the players. I'm not sure if the coaches will be too happy with players taking shots from the halfway line just to get an additional $5,000. But in terms of the activation at the ground, what are you expecting to be different as opposed to what we usually see on the weekends during the Jamaica Premier League?
Well, for sure, because of how short the tournament will be, a lot of differences in activation will happen. So you'll see a lot of banners in the stadium. You will see specific activities when goals are scored, nice flares, etc. You'll see the vibes because Lynk is a technology and a lifestyle partner. So what they bring to the table is a little bit different from most of the other partners that we would have had in the JPL. And then, the fact that it's going to be played in Arnett Gardens, Tony Spalding Sports Complex, whenever games are played in that venue, it's electric. The vibe, the energy, everything is different. So with a lot of sound system, with a lot of DJs, we know football and entertainment is one and the same, so it should be fun.
Yeah, when some of the teams pushing for playoff spots in the Jamaica Premier League involved in these quarterfinals here, the placement or the timing of this competition toward the back end of the regular season as teams are trying to peak for the playoffs. Are you satisfied with that?
Yes, I am, and it was deliberately designed that way. I mean, when we looked at the schedule, we thought it would have been perfect because you're just, ramping up your periodization plans, as they call it in the sport. So a lot of the teams ultimately will be in high gear, and they ultimately want to win both trophies. You want to win the knockout, you want to win the league, or you're trying to vie for a place in that top six and you don't want to get relegated. So a number of these teams are in high activations, especially when it comes down to their training. So I think this tournament sits squarely well into the JPL season, and we devised a strategy to ensure that once you're playing, you're not overworked. So there's a good space between you playing in the knockout games and you moving to your JPL games.
Yeah, and Owen, I see that the Chapelton Maroons are in the quarterfinals. They are about to be relegated, it seems, from the Jamaica Premier League. But since the arrival of Clovis de Oliveira as their coach, they have shown periodically to themselves to be a team with some quality. So outside of the top teams that I've just mentioned that are pushing for JPL title success, teams like Chapelton and Mullines, who are a little off the pace for playoff, could see this as a way to pull something out of a season that hasn't been too hot for them.
You're absolutely right, Lance, and I think this is what that feeling provides for them. It gives them an impetus to go forward. So they have 4 games left in the regular season. That's a total of 12 points that they could possibly gain, and then as they progressively play games and they get wins under their belt, it helps, So if Chapelton is able to secure a couple wins under their belt, they could just be focused on this knockout tournament. Or if, in the case of Mullines, like you mentioned, it will help to give them the impetus in going forward. All our teams are there, Portmore United, they're looking to cement their spot in that top 6. And then, the perennial teams that you are expected to see in that part of the table. Cavalier Football Club or Soccer Club rather, Mount Pleasant Football Academy, and then Harborview.
Owen, tell me what was the thinking behind doing 2 legs as opposed to just a one-off leg?
Well, what we wanted was more football. We wanted to ensure that more football was being played, and we gave them one opportunity. So in the first 2 rounds, you had a knockout straight, so you went home, you progressed. And then when we looked at how we could create more value for both the players, the clubs, and the sponsors, we saw where there was a gap. So, we had a 2-way quarterfinal leg and we had a 2-way semi-final leg, and I think it works for the teams. I mean, it gives them enough spacing, like I said, and it provides them with more football. So they get more football, the fans get more football, the partners get more opportunities to activate. So I think it's a win-win for all the stakeholders at play.
It would have been easier if Arnett Gardens were involved at this stage, I suppose, based on the fact that most of the matches, or as you indicated, all of the matches are going to be played in Arnett Gardens. But how confident are you that you'll be able to get the outside crowd to come in? And what are the incentives for the fans to actually support these games and be there?
Well, I mean, you mentioned something that's important, and we are trying to upskill all the clubs. So we don't want it to just be an Arnett Gardens or a Waterhouse. It would be nice, ideally, but they didn't earn their spot. Portmore actually silence them neatly. So what we're trying to do is to get the Portmore massive to come out, but we also want the Arnett Gardens people who love football, which we know they do, to come out and support. So there's incentive for the players to invite people out to come and support them. There's also incentive for the clubs to actually, make that push, and then the communities who generally support football, we want them. So our activations, our marketing, our strategies will be targeting those communities as well, to get them out, because it's really just football, and these players are the ones who you expect to move on into or matriculate into the national program. So outside of club rivalry and loyalty, we're looking at national type players who are expected to be, showing their quality, and this gives them another opportunity. So yes, ideally, you'd want Arnett Gardens to be in the quarterfinals, but unfortunately, that was not the case. And I mean, fortunately for the other teams, they're marching on.
Yeah. Owen, we know that COVID had scuppered a lot of sporting plans as far as the calendar is concerned, but a knockout competition at this level in Jamaica hasn't been a constant part of the football schedule in the country. I say that to say this because earlier this week we had a discussion on the show here about the format of the Premier League, and there are those who prefer, as we see in Europe, a straight league competition, so a team's body of work is what they'll be judged by, and not making playoffs and then run the risk of being hot for a regular season and then losing your form and losing the title. So the point was made that a very active and dynamic knockout competition to go alongside the league competition is one of the ways that you can have teams with the opportunity to shine and to have more chance at success, even if they don't make it in the league.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's a unique part of how our football landscape is, and it's one of the things that we have to be mindful of. I keep saying that, yes, we're looking at best practices internationally. However, we have to localize what is considered the product. So having this dynamic knockout tournament, as well as the league where there's a knockout or a playoff stage, I think it adds value, it adds excitement. We don't like monotony, and I think that's one of the things that we're very keen on as football fans, rather. But, as administrators, we're always looking at the best solution to what may seem like a problem. We're canvassing the clubs, asking them how they feel. What this opportunity in the knockout tournament gives more teams a chance to play. So whereas the Premier League, there's a capped number of teams, the knockout gives a wider base. So, the Cinderella story opportunity exists where a team from nowhere could come and, upset one of the bigger fancied clubs. But again, it's very important to add a knockout tournament to the football landscape, and we're hoping to keep that going. We've had the luxury of a 3-year partnership with our current presenting sponsors, and we expect that we can extend it by showcasing top quality football and in the best produced manner, and giving fans a nice thrill and ensuring that everybody comes out and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, well, based on the input from Lynk, I would suggest that they're on a good program for this 3 years. Let's hope that things will go beyond that if they are happy with the product and so on. But I know that the excitement of that level of football is enough to keep Lynk interested. Great, as usual, talking to you, Owen, and we'll be monitoring these mid-April quarterfinals very, very closely and see where the tournament goes from here as a concurrent toast to the football fans with the Jamaica Premier League.
Thank you very much, by the way. Let me use this opportunity because SportsMax is our media partners on this tournament, similar to how they are on the JPL, and I think the production and the commentary is top class. There's none that matches it. So I think that is also another important element. Everybody asks who's doing the host broadcast and production. Of course, it is SportsMax, so they're a little bit more happy when they hear that. And it helps to solidify any kind of relationship. So I thank you again for continuously supporting local football, and we hope that we can ensure that the product is of a certain standard that you can go forward with.
Excellent, Owen, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Donald, really exciting times here in local football in Jamaica, with the Premier League in its last 5 or 6 rounds, and the knockout, the Lynk Cup, running concurrently now, and an opportunity for the players to get some more airtime on SportsMax, as Owen just mentioned. And as lead commentator, Donald, I'm pretty certain that you're as excited as the fans are about this Lynk Cup.
Yeah, and 2 matches in particular next week. Portmore against Malines United, a team that has been resurgent. Malines United, still just outside the playoffs, would have been set back by the loss to Dudley Holden in the Premier League. And of course, Cavalier against Mount Pleasant. Those are the headline acts, I think, for about Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you've seen any of those matches, have you, in the Lynk Cup? I've seen a few highlights, and as we said, you just mentioned Malines, because they have been very good in the past month. A bit of a stutter last week, but they are under Alex Thomas's coaching, showing that they are a team with quality, and I'm not sure if they're going to make the playoffs because things looking a little dodgy at the moment. Portmore Waterhouse having this huge battle for the number 6 spot. But it's a part of the excitement of knockout football, where, as Owen mentioned, and as we see internationally, a lot of times big teams get knocked out by smaller teams in these knockout formats.
Yeah, but it should be interesting, because even the likes of Chapelton, and we spoke about them earlier in terms of them running some sort of form under Clovis de Oliveira, we expect them to do well against the Stars of the East. Probably, both of them obviously with young squads, so they may just go toe-to-toe with each other in an entertaining fashion. So I wouldn't write off the likes of Chapelton or Malines United.
I agree with you 100%. Still a lot more to come here on the SportsMax Zone, including talk on the NBA and the Carifta Games, starting Friday with an opening ceremony and competition Saturday, Sunday, Monday, live on SportsMax. Back with more on the Zone after this.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.